Thanks so much. Thanks for your patience waiting for this talk. And hi, welcome to everybody to Can Engineers Save the Planet? I think if you are here, it is because you care about the planet and you are interested in knowing if that question could have a nice answer. But first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. So hi again, I'm Jesus Maria from Celonis. I'm a software developer with more than 18 years of coding. So in last April, I just become, an adult in the sector. And I'm very passionate about best practices. And just in case you want to keep in touch with me, here you can find my Twitter and GitHub account, and also a couple of emails you can write if you feel so shy to ask any question at that talk. Okay? Also, I'd like to introduce the agenda. I'm going to follow up and summarize this talk in less time than the keynote, I think. So just approximately in 40 minutes is going to be enough. But something I realized when I started just creating contents for that talk is probably that amount of time is not enough because, process mining is a very interesting topic. But at least we are going to try. So the basic idea is to start asking to yourself why you are here, as to create a journey from that question to some sustainability stories, but looking for the causes of the problem we want to solve, and also talking about a possible solution. And then, why are you here? As I mentioned before, I think you are here because you, as an engineer, as a developer, as a tester, manager, just an individual, you care about the planet, and you want to know if it's possible to save it, or at least to don't harming it so much. But I can remember when I was at the high school and also at the university, some developers, they started to study computer science because they wanted to work on the video games industry, probably to create the next Monkey Island or something like that. It never wasn't my case. I always wanted to contribute to the world. I always wanted to solve big problems. And I think there is no bigger problem than the problem we want to solve now. It's just fixing our planet. And I think that is the idea why we become engineers, because we want and we love to solve problems, especially if they are complicated problems. But before going into details, I would like to make a couple of disclaimers. Just to present the problem, I'm going to put on your face some numbers, some metrics that they are so big, and you could be a little bit scared about those metrics. I think it's important to start creating that relationship of transparency with the audience about that. So those numbers, they are coming from official sources. They are not fake news. And even when the number looks so scary to me, I did the exercise of making a double verification of that number in another website. But I think it's important to have those numbers in our mind. And the second disclaimer is that man you can see behind me, he's a Professor Phil van der Haast. And why he's appearing here? Because he's mostly the good father of process mining. Some slides you are going to be able to see along my talk, they are coming from his courtesy, so I have to publicly say thanks for everything, Uncle Will. Now, what is the problem? The problem is, indeed, there is no planet B. We don't have a backup of the planet. I heard some people say about moving to Mars if the planet is not enough. I think it was Elon Musk who said that, but I have some concerns about if that is the right solution. Because just imagine for 1 second, we had that planet B. But probably we won't have enough resources to save all the people and the animals on the planet, because there are 8.7 million species of plants in the animal on existence. So that's too much just to make a moving. Now I'm moving to Cadiz and I'm suffering a lot just only to move my home. Just imagine if we want to do that kind of moving. But imagine you had resources to proceed with that very big moving. How you could exactly recreate the planet as it is today. But not only as it is today, I mean a much better version with no pollution, totally clear. Quick answer is you can't, because our little and blue planet is not a Docker image you can run in an ephemeral container. So if the container gets corrupted for any reason, come on, just reset, kill it and start again. So then it's much better if we start perceiving our planet as our only home. And our home, it has a very big problem. It's dirty, and it is suffering. And this suffering is a fact, because some words like global warming, climate change, air pollution, and many others, sadly, they are so familiar to us. So now let me show some numbers to you to make you think how big is the problem and how it is affecting to us nowadays, and how the current trend that is going to make our problem bigger if we don't take part of the solution right now. In 2020, and probably that statistics is going to be deprecated by the current situation we already have in 2023, but 2020 was the hottest year since we have data. 1.7 more degrees as the average increment for the world. And we're expecting to reach 2 degrees so soon, just in 2040. I'm going to live in 2040. Hopefully all the audience, I'm going to live in that year as well. And for sure, my couple of kids, that is the world. I'm going to live for them. But going back to how hot is it today, just imagine how that trend is affecting to our glaciers. Our glaciers, they are melting so fast. Due to that, the trend of our sea levels, it doesn't look the best. 2021, we ended with a new record high of this, because the sea level grew 97 millimeters, like 3.8 inches. And also in 2021, the total frequency of natural disasters were 13% higher than past years, especially the flood disasters. And I don't know about you, but come on, I want to live on Cadiz. I don't want to live a bikini bottom having Bob Esponja to my neighborhood. So, and then who are the most affected by that is indeed the animals, the ecosystems, and the humanity. Because every day, up to 150 species may go to extinct. This is probably the 10% of all the species around the world in just a decade. This is insane. And while developed countries, they are experiencing extreme weather conditions, let's not forget, the undeveloped countries, they are suffering the most. Because if one natural disaster strikes into an undeveloped country, they will need 10 years as average to recover. This is a decade. This is too much time. A lot of things could happen in one decade. Probably Spain can win Eurovision again, but that's another discussion. So let's start talking about the causes. Of course, there are so many causes, but I would like to start pointing to the footprints, because we are leaving footprints along our way. Every single action, every single decision we made in our life, it has a consequence for the environment. So we need to optimize how we use and how we consume the resources. But you know, we are living in a digital world. This is not only about the carbon footprint. We are living also digital footprints, because as you know, in the digital world, everything is recorded. So I started to talk about footprints and consumption, then I need to continue talking about inefficiencies, because our traditional approaches, our current lifestyle, it is full of inefficiencies. In the digital world, we are collecting data, but sometimes we do nothing with that data, or we are not using that data in a way that is going to allow to us to let us know if we are performing well or not. So then it's easy. We need to start using our data properly, because a more efficient usage of that data is going to allow to us to harm less the planet. So it's similar to how we recycle the garbage. But sometimes we don't know exactly how to do it. Then how we start recycling the data, the physical garbage, we don't know how to proceed with that. So how many times do you ask it to yourself, okay, I have that waste on my hand, what is the garbage being I have to use? Is it green? Is it blue? Is it gray? With the digital garbage, we can say the digital footprint is mostly the same, because the result in a large scale is like that. It's just a mess. And then why not to try something new? Because our current lifestyle is harming the planet. Why not to change our mind? Just because we have the feeling our current lifestyle, it works, it doesn't mean it is working the good way or we are moving in the right direction. we already know we are leaving carbon footprint, and also it's very easy to take concern about that carbon footprint, because some of them, they are visible to us. We can touch it, we can smell it, but I don't recommend to you to start smelling or touching the garbage. Come on, like a dog, like a street dog, something like that. But it's there, and it's very easy to take concern about that. But with the digital world, it's not as easy because we cannot see it. We cannot see that digital footprint, but it's there. It's in everywhere. But what is exactly the digital footprint? Well, in fact, it is the core of our problem. But I think it's very important to start explaining now what is the digital footprint. Well, we are using internet. We are using internet to collect huge amount of data. And that data is based on events. Events when you are just browsing some contents, when you are looking for a website, you are creating an event. And what is behind that event is data. We're connected one each other due to the social networks. If now you use that hashtag JOTV23 to publish something about that talk, you are creating an event. We already know there is the Internet of Things. That means every single day, different manufacturers, they are connecting more devices to internet, and they are creating data as well. And that data, for sure, they are events, and also places. We are addicted to our mobile devices, and they are just creating content, data, and events as well. And let's see how the data is being collected. This is a very small example based on the textile industry, which is one of the most contaminant industries in the world. But my idea in this talk is to don't point to that industry, because that industry is not the guilty. So they are just manufacturing the kind of clothes that we are requesting as a consumers. They are doing the same thing they are already doing by other industries. They are producing the things we wanted to have at home. So we can say that this process, this digital footprint that belongs to us, because it's a shared relationship. So that is part then of our digital footprint, because we are buyers. And here we can just start having a look at that data and start making questions about, okay, how many processes we can identify here based on the activities and how efficient they are, based on how long it takes. And this is the core of process mining, how I'm going to present later. But this is a very small example, a little bit stupid, I have to recognize if I'm totally honest. But you know, in Internet of Events, we are collecting a huge amount of data that it could come from different sources, like a NoSQL, like a relational database, from CSV file. It came even from the system logs, from the logs of a system. The question here is how we can use that that huge amount of data in order to let us know how efficient we are. And the most important thing, how we can improve our processes. So a possible solution is indeed process mining. That is what I do at Celonis. And why this is helpful for the environment? Because just knowing how to use your data will let us know to reveal we are not 100% efficient. So we can optimize our processes, and then we can reduce our emissions. And what is process mining? Because it's something mostly new. Probably you are coming here from the data mining world. Okay, I'm going to explain in just 1 minute. It can be explained as the missing bridge between process model analysis and data model analysis. So then it has a very strong connection with data mining. But I like to think in process mining as the missing link between those concepts, processes and data. And why? Because in data mining, it's not process-centric. Rows and columns, they can mean anything. On the other hand, in process mining, we're assuming the event refers to activities and instances, and those events, they are data as well. We are also interested in discovering and fixing end-to-end processes. So here, the concurrency for those models are essential for us. And in addition, such as process discovery, conformance checkings, and bottleneck analysis are not addressed by the typical data mining techniques and tools. We need something different. Now remember the previous example about the event log, and notice how something is appearing here is the case ID. We don't have there the close ID anymore. We have a case ID. And why this is important? Because the activities are steps in the process. And the case ID is the link to connect all those different activities we are identifying in a process. To answer the question about what is an event in process mining, then we can say that an event in process mining is a combination between the case ID, activities, and timestamp. We don't care at that moment about other columns like the factory ID or the nodes. Because at that point, what we want to know from the events are information about the process steps or activity that has been conducted, information about the points in time, activities that were executed, and information about the ID for which the activities have been fired. And here, there is a missing link. So the combination of case ID, activity, and timestamp is an event. It's a digital footprint. Now we have a unique identifier of that digital footprint that is going to allow to us to trace everything and to let us know if we are 100% efficient or not. This is what we need to collect. But you might asking to yourself, okay, now we know what we have to collect, but how to use that thing we are collecting? This is the good question. So, as I already mentioned, the event logs as our digital footprint, and now we are going to know how to use that digital footprint. And to do that, we are going to start using discovery graphs, because we want to know how that digital footprint flows, how many events are driven by our logs. And to help us with that, we are going to start using Petri nets and reachability graphs, because they are the foundational knowledge for process modeling. And what is a Petri net? I'm going to explain very short time what is a Petri net and how it works. Okay, a Petri net, it contains a set of tokens, markings, and transitions. And from a Petri net, the goal is to create all the different reachability graphs. This is the transition system of the Petri net. Here, also those reachability graphs, they can represent regions. And the Petri net, you can see here, is because it's a very small example, is finite. But as soon as we start training my Petri net, adding variants, adding deviations, the reality is going to be a little bit different, because we are going just to mutate that Petri net in something more complex, like an spaghetti. I'm going to show to you an example later. But the idea here, and why we use Petri net, is to capture behaviors that can be expressed later into a reachability graph. And how it works. Okay, one very basic example. The token is enabling at every single step different transitions from A, B, C, D, E, F. But the imaginary path my process is following is what is highlighted in blue. And the A transition, it could be if you remember the previous table, the A transition, it could be the cut activity. B transition, it could be the paint activity. And the D transition could be the C of activity. And now I think you have the idea on mind. We are building a sequence of activities that is going just to reveal everything for that process. So the question here is how we can create a Petri net from the scratch. It can be easily done from the event logs. And that technique is what we call in process mining plating. Plate-in is just a way to discover different variants of the process based on the event logs, capturing all the behaviors and activities from those events. The goal is to create a reachability graph, but not only to have a reachability graph, because we want to know a visual representation of that process, because a visual representation is going to allow to us just to have better insight. It's much better, it's more user-friendly to have a visual representation of your process and not just checking the log every single time. If you already have created a Petri net and you want to recreate the event log, is possible? Of course, yes. Thinking in terms of creating an event log by playing out the model, we can create an event log. The basic idea is we start from that model, and then we can regenerate behaviors. And generating those behaviors, we can recreate even the digital footprint. But the thing about that is we want to train. It's about training your process model in order to be able to generate diagnostics. Because from those variants, from those deviations, you are going to have those diagnostics, then you can fix all the things you are detecting. And here is where the enhancement technique it came to say to give a hand to us. So because we want to improve a model based on the event data, and how to do that? Just comparing the current event log, just remember our digital footprint, to the process model. And then we can check if there is any kind of deviation or degradation of the performance. The basic idea here is, as soon as we have our model trained, is to create a much better version that is going to fix all the diagnostics we found before. But why not to make process mining closer to you with a very simple example? Just imagine if you could use process mining in order to drive your day-by-day activities. And what it will be the outcome? And then probably what would you do if you have those numbers at your hand? So, okay, this is a real example about one employee from Celonis that used the process mining to put the day-by-day activities. But probably your life looks similar, because in that PetriNet, we can see how you wake up, you have your breakfast, you cut to your work, you relax at the evening, you sleep on the night, especially if you don't have small kids at home. I'm missing a lot when I was able to sleep. But this is another story. But I don't think everything follows that order, because here is the perfect order. And probably I can think, okay, it's right. You wake up in the morning at every single time because you have an alarm on your clock. But I'm a little bit unsure if you arrive to your work exactly at the same time. No matter you use the public transport, you go to your work by your own. But anyway, we can think this is a happy path, okay? This is a happy path, and this is perfect, but we already know the life is not, it doesn't understand about any happy path, because this is the reality, because every single day it has deviation. For example, you want to go out to the outside because you have a date, but you don't know in what place you live the day before. Life is complex. Life is complicated. It doesn't understand for any routine. There is no perfect routine. As I mentioned before, I'm the father of a couple of kids, and even every single day, I'm trying to follow the perfect routine just to make my two kids hopefully go to bed soon. Every single day, I'm facing deviation. And the most typical is, Dad, I don't want to go to bed. So, and every single variant, every single deviation to our model can be represented in that way. And probably the deviations, those deviations from the happy path, they are not big, as I mentioned before. Are you completely sure you are using the same amount of toothpaste when you're brushing your teeth? Are you completely sure you are using the same amount of time when you're brushing your teeth? Probably you cannot answer that question. But those are also deviations. And then the life, we can say, if a chaos. And then if you ask to yourself, if you are sustainable, probably the answer is going to be a little bit unfair. And here's where process mining can help you. Why not to make the graph a little bit more user-friendly that is possible with the Celonis technologies? So then we have just the numbers in our hand. We have traveling transparency of how our actions are harming the environment. And also we have a single self of truth in place. And we start making questions and solving problems. And improving what is more important for us. For example, I think Elon Musk, he says something about moving to Mars when the Earth is not enough. And I think, okay, this is your opinion, Elon, it's not mine. I want to stay at my home because my home is Earth. I want to clean my home, and I want to live here. So then I can use my process mining engine in order to create automatic actions like following Elon Musk on the social networks, just reading their messages and saying, okay, backfires. It's a polite way to say just the opposite. Just change those letters and you will guess what is the message behind. So, but how it looks like altogether? What are the main components involved in the play-in, in the play-out, in the enhancement? Because we are tech people. This is a tech event. We love diagrams. Yes, we love diagrams, especially software architects. They love diagrams. So here we have our fantastic it was some high-level diagram about process mining. We can see here how we are using the play-in technique in order to discover processes based on the data we are receiving that came from different sources. From that data, we are creating a visualization of those processes. This is play-in. And also, we're applying diagnostics. This is play-out. Then to repair later the model in order to enrich this process. This is enhancement. But even process mining is a fantastic tool to help to you in your day-by-day activities, just to allow to you to be more sustainable. And this is a fantastic tool in our mission as a company to not saving the planet, but at least to contribute to the world. Is not 100% efficient. This is a traditional approach. As I said before, the traditional approaches, they are full of inefficiencies. But okay, it's not a big deal. This is more or less, this is a new technology. This is in constant evolution. And for sure, it has the trade-offs. And the trade-off is we're still spending the 80% of the time in the extraction process, because sometimes we are just extracting data we don't want to use. Like I said before, some columns from my event log we are not interested, like the nodes, like the factory ID. And also, the single case notion assumption is forcing to us to treat every single case, every single process in isolation. Then we are losing the different interactions that are happening between one process each other. And why that thing is happening? Because we are trying to make a 3D reality fit into a plain reality based on the event log. This only has 2 dimensions. So then, welcome to the reinvention of process mining. At Celonis, we started to moving from a static 2-dimensional view of the processes to a dynamic 3-dimensional view. Just remember what the previous example about the textile industry. Now, notice how we don't have here the case ID anymore. This is a totally new mindset, since the model now shows different types of objects, like, for example, the factory, the clothes, and activities and their attributes. And now, because we have that holistic view, we can start just creating relationships as they were a UNL diagram. For example, we can start just having, making the relationship between how many clothes are being manufactured in a factory, sorry. And of course, that means we have a new formula for an event. Now an event, the formula is a little bit more complex. An event is activities, timestamps, objects, and of course, their attribute. The main advantage of this approach are the data extraction is only done once. Discarding things, not discarding things, sorry. We are only just extracting the thing we wanted to have. This is allowing to us to choose the view for the objects and activities we want to analyze. Then we are going to have a shorter time to start receiving insights. And because the interaction between the object, now we are able to capture, we have a 3-dimensional view of my processes. So that is a better representation of the reality, but not only about the reality also of the modern business operation. And of course, it's more efficient. But how this is helping to us to be more sustainable and less aggressive with the environment? Well, basically, one of the main, the core values of Celonis as a company is here is our future. We want to contribute to the Earth because we want to stay here and we don't want to go to Mars, to planet B, to whatever. So, and basically our customers, they know about that. And they are interested in fixing the processes, but in a way, they are not going to harm the planet anymore because it's a win-win relationship. If they are able to reduce the amount of water or energy they need to use to manufacture something, they're going to have more revenue, but on the other hand, they are going to be less aggressive with the environment. So let me introduce them some stories with a common factor. That common factor is process mining focused in sustainability. And in order to show to you as many stories as possible, the name of our customers has been anonymized. So applying process mining, a famous flight operators, they were able to reduce the CO2 footprint. Why? Because they use process mining to drive the digital transformation and to apply process predictive steering at the scale. But not only about that, because they are also using process mining to optimize their fueling, catering, and onboarding process. Aircraft can depart on time. So also the customer satisfaction is being increased because nobody wants to arrive late at home at your destiny, and nobody wants to start their vacation with a flight cancellation or a delay. Also, customers from the chemical industry, they embrace the change. They use process mining to reduce the carbon emissions up to 6%. Process mining helping them in order to have a single source of truth. With automation of the having that single source of truth, having only one data source that is being automatically fed from different data sources, because they have a problem with the data. This was so fragmented. So they know they are able now in order to detect a real time and quantify key emission drivers. Key emission drivers is like KPIs, like direct emissions, water consumption, energy consumption, or just the waste along their supply chain. And finally, they keep the goal of having transparency and opportunity to reduce their emission with automation that are coming from the system. So, but not only that. Now, they started to have a new relationship with their customers because now they are able to share the mission about the order that was produced by that order. So that special relationship that is making to the customer think how important is to that industry, no matter if the chemical industry, to think how important is to care about the planet. Another story I can tell, a global GPC industry. The GPC industry, if you are not familiar with that term, is the industry that is creating pieces for robots, for another devices. You know, it's a very contaminant one as well. But they have a main goal of reducing their emission across their global operations, but focusing only in the carbon footprint. How process mining is helping them. The three main challenges was the quantification of the emissions. It was a manual process. So the data was so fragmented in multiple data sources, it has suggestive insight that was leading to them to inconsistent actions. They follow the similar step that the other story. They created a single source of truth, but in that time, focused only on the carbon footprint. Then they keep transparency to detect the root causes of those emission drivers that it helps them to optimize the order planning to minimize the carbon footprint. And the result is bingo, 20% fewer shipping emissions. That's too much. Talking about robotics and automation, before starting another company about that industry, before starting using process mining, they had some problems. Like the shipment emissions, okay, over the supply chain, they were not measured. That was a problem. So then they were not able to detect the root causes about delays and so on. So it leads to them to don't be able to balance the cost and the emissions for an optimal shipment planning, a lack of emission transparency with their customers. So the customer Celonis conducted a innovation proof of concept to tackle these issues in 3 steps. Now the quantification of the emission now is not a manual process anymore. So now they are able to automatize how big are their emissions. Then they are able to automatize as well the way to detect the root causes. And finally, they be able to build the automatic decision making for an optimal process for the shipments. So the result is those numbers you can see now, and for sure, less carbon footprint for the planet. So, okay, we have the tools, and we have the knowledge, and we have the skills, and we understand the problem, and we have also a solution. So we need to become efficient. Being efficient in our day-by-day activities is crucial, not only at work or just choosing the shortest path to your destiny. We have to be efficient in more aspects of our life because the planet will appreciate that kind of efficiency. As now we are facing more complex challenges like climate change, global pandemics, when we need engineering more than ever. And we as engineers, if we embrace that change, we can be the people who is going just to put shape that is going to lead the solution, that is going to live a better world for the generation that came. So let's embrace that tool and work together to make a better world. That is obvious. Because the Earth is our future. Sorry for that, Elon. I know you are saying about moving to Mars. Okay, you can buy Twitter, but you cannot buy the Earth. Let's start working together to don't move to Mars in the future. Thank you.